cardio and you have weightlifting, right? And a lot of men, especially like in corporate, they like to do cardio. They go for a morning run, Fortune 500 CEOs. But what is often overlooked is, one, cardio makes you more hungry. Again, you're more likely to overeat. But number two, cardio is like the solo entrepreneur that does everything himself. So when you do cardio, you burn calories. When you don't do cardio, you don't burn calories.
Let's impact some today. I think we're gonna do a great job.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we are here to connect men in pursuit of their potential. I'm encouraging you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. And also, I want to remind you to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, especially if you're ready to take your growth to the next level. I promise you won't be disappointed by the heat that we put out each and every single week. Also, I'm inviting all the men listening to this podcast to join the Noble Knights group, where you could find the support, accountability, and mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve their capacity for life. And this is going to be a great podcast. I'm excited to introduce founder of Six Pack CEO, and of course, peak performance expert, trusted advisor for successful CEOs and business owners. It is my pleasure to have Mauro Stara out of Spain joining us on the podcast today. Mauro, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me on.
I first want to invite the opportunity for you to meet the listeners and meet the audience without me interrupting and me getting in the way. So the podcast is yours. Really quick. Introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you do, and then we can kind of jump into your story and then more of Six Pack CEO and more of what you do.
Sure. So I used to work in banking in Switzerland for 5.5 years. And then at some point I threw my corporate boots or hang up my corporate boots and launched my online coaching business. And that's where we are today, like really fast tracking the story. And I run a online health and fitness coaching business for businessmen, business owners, entrepreneurs, ex-athletes, CEOs who want to get back in shape and want to take their health and performance to the next level.
Nice. When it comes to the Six Pack CEO, what inspired you to create it, right? What takes you from banking to let me help these other professionals reach their peak performance through fitness coaching?
So when I was in banking, I was working, I had my career, the main career, the banking career. And then on the side, I was running a in-person personal training business. And so that was like my little side hustle. And then I was also building out an online business. It was more in the supplement space there. And as I was juggling like all these things, something had to go. And unfortunately, it was my health. So I was sacrificing my health while I was chasing wealth. And eventually I paid the price for it. I burned myself out. I had issues with my heart, so I had to go to a cardiologist. And you walk into that room, you're in your early 20s, and you see a bunch of guys 70 plus, and you think like, man, what am I doing here? And everyone stares at you like, dude, you're so young. Like, why are you here? And eventually I drew a line and said, hey, enough is enough. I need to do something differently. And as I fixed it, I saw the opportunity to lead men just like me, who were my former colleagues in corporate, usually 10, 20, sometimes 30 years older than me. And I saw their lifestyle in and out for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, sometimes 6 days a week for 5.5 years. So it's not just, hey, here's a plan, another, meathead telling them what to do. Rather, I saw their lifestyle and their mindset, their perspective. And that's where I recognized the opportunity that I am capable and able to lead men just like me or just like my former colleagues with the same struggles. Because let's face it, where we are today with our health, especially in America, when you look at the numbers, it's not a bright future. And there's especially with the corporate hustle culture and grind culture where you get a badge of honor when you're busy, and there's no badge of honor when you're healthy. That has to change.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. And I always say that the real flex is the person with a good physique, good health, and able to keep up with their kids as their kids are growing older. That's the flex that I look up to now, because I was just reflecting earlier. It was easy for me to win in my 20s when my only responsibility was maybe work and then going to the gym. But when it comes to leaning into my career and elevating as much as I can to really attack all areas of life, like you said, something had to go. What is it, especially for men, as they're chasing that career and they're balancing family and they're doing all these things? What are the routines, and what did you notice about men that makes their health slip so quickly?
It always depends from person to person, right? It's always individual, but if we would put them into like different baskets or main categories, one is values, right? We prioritize what we value. So, if on top of my list I have this and this and this, then it's because I value it. And, as men, I think you talk a lot about that on your podcast. And I think that's also part of your philosophy. We provide and we protect. That's like in our biology, if we go back thousands and thousands of years ago. Now, today, we don't need to go out and hunt an animal and kill it and bring it home. But our ability to provide and protect is directly correlated with our ability to generate money. So in that regard, that becomes our number one priority. And everything goes under that umbrella because, hey, if I, make money, I can put food on the table for my family. I can pay for education, for the kids and whatever they need. And because of that, I think a lot of men, especially in their 20s and 30s, they just sacrifice their health and chase wealth because they know, hey, it's like in their 20s, the thought is a lot of times, well, if I make a lot of money, I will get laid, right? It's like, if I'm, if I have the status and the money and the cars and the flex, I'll get a lot of chicks. And then in their 30s, it's like, well, if I make a lot of money or I have good money, good career, I'm seen as a provider and as someone that can provide stability and security, right, to attract the right partner and get married. And eventually the guys see like, well, I've always sacrificed myself and put myself on the back burner because of that belief and that thought process. We're really, I think the mistake that happens there is a lot of guys, a lot of men think it's an either or thing, either wealth or health, either rich or ripped. It's like, no, you can have both. Right? When you have the right systems, they work and function together and create synergy that you succeed better in both. If you have enough money or make good money, you can hire the best trainers, the best nutritionists, like the best mindset coaches, the best sleep coaches, wherever you need support to get you to even higher level. And if you have good health, well, if you think about it, the only organ that you cannot replace is your brain. So your brain is your most important asset. And if you take care of that, your ability to think and create and produce and make decisions is going to be better. And you and I both know it. As entrepreneurs, why do we get paid? Well, we get paid to solve problems. And how do we solve problems? Well, we solve problems by coming up with solutions. Okay, and how do we come up with solutions? We create them. And how do we create? Well, with creativity. And you cannot be creative if you put a lot of junk food and processed stuff in your brain, and you have poor sleep and you don't work out and you're dehydrated. Well, the solutions that you come up with will just be below average versus the guy that really, fuels himself with the best things and optimizes sleep and his activity and his hydration. Well, he's going to be in his elite game and make better and smarter and faster decisions. And he's going to just steamroll the competition there, right? And so once guys start to see like, wait, minute. I can make more money when I'm at my peak. Well, that's when they become very dangerous weapon, and they work together. So that's like the number one thing that I see so many times happening. Number 2 and 3 would be maybe time, right? It's like, hey, my schedule is packed, but time is just, well, it's not really time. It's you haven't found a strategy that gives you an ROI while still fitting your schedule, right? So it's just a lack of systems and not having the right solution.
I'm big on that when it comes to time management, when it comes to systems, processes, routines, and habits. Like if you have the right system in place, if you have the right setup and the process in place, you do have time for all those things. And it is extremely dangerous when somebody is cognitively and physically at their peak and they're applying it to business. Good luck competing with somebody who is optimized at that level, because they're going to be hard to beat. You mentioned in banking, chasing your career and then ending up in the cardiologist, and you're looking at these other guys in their 70s, in their 50s, 60s, and you're like, man, how did I end up here? What did that process look like, getting from you're at the doctor's office with your heart problems to now you're leading other men, to how you did it? What was that process from that doctor's office to Six Pack CEO?
Yeah, so there were actually like 2 major life events. One was the burnout. I was sitting at my office, and I felt like really dizzy, and I dropped down. So they had to put me like in a room. Then I went home, and I was like always dizzy, and I had MRIs done. I went like to 3-4 doctors, specialists, and I spent like almost 5 figures, and nobody gave me an answer. It's just like, it's just stress. It's like, well, okay, but what, when and what is like the mechanism, and nobody could explain it there on what was going on. And that persists a little bit. And it was, looking back on that, it was poor breathing, right? Like leaning in, mouth breathing, right? When you're like really focused and overworked instead of like relaxed breathing. So not enough oxygen, poor sleep, dehydrated, the accumulation of everything, which is too much. And I kind of, and that got a little bit better over time as I dropped like one of the businesses. And then, so basically reducing workload, and then it hit me physically. I was always like sick, and I'd work out. Yeah, I was always sick and inflamed, and eventually that got so bad that one morning I woke up and said, "Man, like it really, really hurts here." And I thought like maybe I was like sore or there was something, and it persisted. And I was like. So what I did was that I went to the doctor, and she's like, yeah, come in right away. And then that was actually, it's a great question, because this reminds me of a piece of content for myself to create. I went to the doc, and she's like, everything is fine. We did some tests and everything is good. You were just a little bit maybe under tension and so on. I'm like, okay. So I go home. It was like 11, 12. I go home, eat, and it was like 12:30, 1, then food on the table, and then my phone rings, and I look, and it's a doc, and say, okay. And then she's like, she says my name. I'm like, yeah. She's like, where are you at? I'm like, at home. She's like, we booked you an emergency appointment at that cardiologist. I'm like, why? Well, we actually found something. We went through the tests again, and we saw something. You got to go there. It's really urgent. And, you're sitting at home eating lunch, and it's like, and the heart already hurts, like, shit. So now the heart was racing. So I go in there, and I come there, and I walk in. And as soon as I walk in, like the nurse was calling, like, let's go. And go there, lay down, take your shirt off. And they put all the devices on. It's like, ooh. And then the tests that I had to do. And then for 3 days, they sent me back home. I had to wear like a device that I don't know how they call it, but that device, it was plugged in here. And
pacemaker?
Could be. Yeah, I have to look it up. And I was wearing that and had to bring it back to give them everything. And ultimately, it was not like something horrible. So no heart attack or so, but like there was massive inflammation in the heart. And that's where I knew, like, dude, I cannot continue like this. And I have a great career, but it's not really what I wanted to do. It's not healthy for me, and it's not my duty. And I think 1-2 weeks later, came back and then just said, "Hey, I give my notice, and that's it, guys." And that's where you could say, well, back then it was not Six Pack CEO, but that's where everything was, well, not born. I already was building it out like two years prior to go online, and 4 years prior already with the offline thing. And that's where I kind of regained the time to fully lock in and focus on it at 100%. Initially, it sucked. Like it was like slow and frustrating, and there was a lot of anxiety. But that's where I put together the systems with the thought process. Hey, it has to be sustainable. It has to integrate in a schedule like I had before. It cannot just be the classic 5-6 days a week bodybuilding. We talked about it before the podcast, bodybuilding routine or 2 hours at the gym. It has to be something that looks at the minimum effort with a lot of ROI for a crazy busy schedule, but also optimizes recovery. So it's like a holistic approach that looks at everything. So it's not just the workout, not just the diet, but there's a recovery piece, first sleep, first stress, optimal heart health, as we talked about. There's the diet, the workouts, and I start putting all these protocols in place with the thought process. Hey, it has to fit into the busiest and craziest schedule while still getting results, and making that equation work versus just, okay, here's your classic plan, which is not sustainable for a person like that.
So we have a lot of busy entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast, a lot of men who are chasing their career, but they also understand the foundation and really the benefit of taking care of their health first. For anyone who might have their health slipping, maybe they hear your story, they hear the emergency appointment, going to the cardiologist. They're not quite there yet, but they feel like they're on the cusp. What would you say they should focus on? Their protocol should be for them to turn their health around. What would their day-to-day look like? How do you start implementing those procedures and those processes right now if somebody's listening to this and saying, oh crap, I need to change my ways?
Again, it always depends where someone is starting and what their biggest leverage point is. But diet is always the easiest way, because you're going to eat anyways. Whenever someone says, oh, I'm busy, I'm this, like, dude, you're going to open your mouth and you're going to put, something in your mouth. So if you already are doing that, that's not going to take extra time. So how about we fix that there? And you can either meal prep, which takes time, maybe a little bit boring, or you can order a simple meal delivery service like Icon Meals, Factor 75. Some people would argue like, yeah, it's better to do healthy meals on your own. I get it. But for someone who's like eating horrible, that is a very, very good start, and much better than not taking any action at all. So getting that nutrition sorted out, whether you prep it, whether you have a restaurant that delivers, whether you get a meal delivery service, and just streamlining that and making sure, hey, that is optimal there. And we can go more tactical if you want on that. Once that's done, walking, I would incorporate some walking during the day. So like a post-lunch walk, that's always going to help with your blood sugar levels, because when you move your muscles, it's going to soak up more sugar from your blood, improves insulin sensitivity. So I would incorporate that, even like a 5-10 minute walk there on that. And that's like super low hanging. And then lifting weights, if someone is not lifting weights, and people would say, oh, it takes time. You can get an X3 bar, you can get dumbbells at home. You don't have to sign up for a gym, or you can sign up for a gym as well. But just getting your body moving and emotion. If you do just those 3 things, the ROI is huge. And then you can layer much more on top of it. We can look at optimizing circadian rhythm, so getting some sunlight exposure in the morning, using blue light blockers 1 hour before bed, cutting off screen time 1 hour before bed. They're stop eating 3 to 4 hours before bed to optimize your sleep, specific your deep sleep. There's a lot that can be done, and I'm happy to go super deep, but I also want to make sure that it's not overwhelming and very actionable. And those are just some easy and simple to implement steps. Really, anyone out there can do. Let's say they're level 0 and want to get to level 1, and then if someone's level 5 and want to get to level 10, more than happy to talk about that as well.
No, absolutely. And I love those tips in terms of just getting started. I use a meal delivery company myself. I'm very busy. I don't have time to cook. I love cooking, but when I cook, I like to just cut all my veggies and everything. I could take an hour and a half to cook just one meal. So I know myself. So I get the meal prep done for me, and I get it delivered. It might be a little bit more expensive per meal, but again, as you mentioned, for these high professionals who are achieving more, they're earning more, they can afford to pay for time. And that's the one thing I lean into is I am happy to pay for time because I know I can optimize that time in another area. You mentioned going deep. I'd love to go deep in the 3 kind of areas that you mentioned in terms of fixing the diet, incorporating that post lunch walk, and moving the body. So let's look at 1, the diet. 2, we'll look at movement and working out, and then 3, sleep. Starting with the diet, right? Whether it's a meal prep service, whether someone's meal prepping themselves, what are some of the foods or some of the behaviors they should focus on when it comes to meal prepping or dieting? What should we avoid? What should we lean into? I know it might depend on the person, but what are some of the foundational tips you could give somebody who wants to stop eating McDonald's or stop eating all the fast food and focus on more delicious meals?
So the number 1 rule that I always share with every client is, especially in the fat loss phase, but even for high performance, the number 1 rule is appetite management. So if you're hungry, it's really hard to stick to the protocol. You're going to use a lot of willpower, you're going to be snacking, you have to use a lot of discipline. Where if you're not hungry, then it's very easy to stick to the plan. So what we focus on is making sure that all the decisions we make don't jack up our hunger. And one of the best things we can do there is a concept I like to call carb-back cycling. So you move your carbs to the end of the day, and during the day you have protein and fats. So morning breakfast could be something like an egg omelette with some Brazil nuts. I have a lot of selenium, which is a very powerful antioxidant, supports your thyroid. And that's a good optimal breakfast there. It can be a protein shake, it can be a Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, right? So a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat. For lunch, we want to have, again, protein, fats, veggies. So it can be a chicken salad, it can be a ribeye with an avocado, can be brisket with some broccoli, Brussels sprouts, like just a little bit of meat or a little bit of fish, like wild salmon, wild caught, and a little bit of veggies, maybe a little bit of fats there. And then for dinner, you can have protein and a little bit more carbohydrate. So that can be, again, turkey, can be chicken, can be beef, can be fish with, let's say, baked potato, cup of rice, some fruits. And why does that work so well? Well, 3 reasons. 1, when you don't have the carbs early in the day, it keeps your blood sugar levels stable. And what that does is you don't have the spike, you don't have the sugar roller coaster, you're not hungry, you have no cravings, and your energy levels are very stable throughout the day. And what's going to happen is your ability to focus and stay sharp and make clear-cut decisions will be very high. So that's like very easy to implement just by shifting when you eat things. And because a lot of times we know I should eat better, but creating a structure that, hey, the timing of your meals will matter on if you overeat or not, and also what food choices you make. And they did a study on that. I think it was one group had 500 calories of cereal for breakfast, and the other group had 500 calories of steak and eggs. And the cereal group had breakfast at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., they're hungry again, wanted to eat. The steak and egg groups, again, same amount of calories, they're hungry at 2 p.m. So if it keeps you full till then, 1, fat loss is easier, but also high performance is easier. You're not snacking all the time, you're not thinking about food. You can be super sharp, super focused on work. Number two, why it works so well is when you have the carbs at night, a lot of times in carbohydrates, also in protein, but some research shows that you can extract the amino acid tryptophan better from carbs. And tryptophan is a cofactor to produce serotonin. So it helps you calm down your nervous system and get, just be calmer, get better sleep quality, stay asleep. And food like banana is very good because it has vitamin B6, which is a cofactor for tryptophan, has tryptophan in there as well. So that would be a good fruit, for example, to have after dinner. And reason number three is when you eat carbs, because of the release of insulin to lower your sugar levels, you lower cortisol. So when insulin is released, you lower cortisol levels. And that is important at night because if your cortisol is low, which is your stress hormone, you're going to sleep better. So it's a very powerful approach, very simple with this structure. Anyone can go out there and implement that. And as far as food quality maybe goes, one tip there, focus on things that have no barcode. That'll get you very, very far there. And you can ask yourself, well, was this food here 100 years ago? If it wasn't here 100 years ago, very low chance that it's like your best choice. Doesn't mean you can never have pizza or a Kit Kat or so, but it should not be like in your standard stack.
Yeah, like that 80-20 rule, being more healthy than unhealthy. Indulge here and there, maybe at a party, a birthday party or something, but don't make it an everyday or an every weekend type behavior. So carb-back cycling, very well described. And I know a lot of guests are or a lot of listeners right now are probably taking all these notes in terms of dialing that in. We've managed our appetite. We've done the carb-back cycling. Let's talk about the movement piece, right? You mentioned maybe going for a post-lunch walk or weightlifting. Some folks are saying, Mauro, man, I don't have time. But again, my question would be, what kind of movement would be best? And when it comes to weightlifting, do I need to be in the gym 6 days a week, an hour each time? Can I get away with 30-minute workouts? What are some of the strategies and tips you would give somebody who's looking to implement a movement routine in their lives?
Yeah, so I always like to explain it this way. You have cardio and you have weightlifting, right? And a lot of men, especially like in corporate, they like to do cardio. They go for a morning run, Fortune 500 CEOs, but what is often overlooked is, one, cardio makes you more hungry. Again, you're more likely to overeat. But number two, cardio is like the solo entrepreneur that does everything himself. So when you do cardio, you burn calories. When you don't do cardio, you don't burn calories. Where building muscle mass is, or lifting weights that put on muscle mass is like adding passive income to your metabolism, right? It's like giving your metabolism a raise. It's like having and the reason why is because once you put on more and more muscle mass, your metabolism goes up and up and up. So you're burning more calories at rest. It's not like a huge amount, but if you put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle over time, that will stack up. Your blood sugar levels, insulin is going to be improved as well. And cardio, and you have weightlifting, right? And a lot of men, especially like in corporate, they like to do cardio. They go for a morning run, Fortune 500 CEOs. But what is often overlooked is, one, cardio makes you more hungry. Again, you're more likely to overeat. But number two, cardio is like the solo entrepreneur that does everything himself. So when you do cardio, you burn calories. When you don't do cardio, you don't burn calories. Where building muscle mass is, or lifting weights that put on muscle mass is like adding passive income to your metabolism, right? It's like giving your metabolism a raise. It's like having and the reason why is because once you put on more and more muscle mass, your metabolism goes up and up and up. So you're burning more calories at rest. It's not like a huge amount, but if you put on 10, 15 pounds of muscle over time, that will stack up. Your blood sugar levels, insulin is going to be improved as well. Not recover from 6 workouts a week at 2 hours. Like unless you take like steroids, then you will recover. Or like you're not an entrepreneur, you just work out, eat and sleep. But if you're busy and you've got a lot of other things to do, your testosterone can be lower if you overtrain. So if you do 3 days a week, you do low volume workouts, very high intensity and moderate frequency, then that works really well. My two favorite splits are either full body or upper lower body. And what we use with our clients are upper lower body splits that we call specialization splits. I have to give credit to that to Lyle McDonald. He taught me that years ago. And basically, you pick one muscle group upper body and one muscle group lower body, and you overload those. You do more volume, more sets for those two muscle groups, and you do that for 6 to 7 weeks, and then you rotate to another muscle group, and you always look where's the weakest change. If I have like really weak shoulders, then my shoulders get overloaded. All the other muscle groups, I still train them. I keep them on maintenance. Now I grow always that area. It takes a very minimal workout, and I become much more aesthetic. Instead of just training everything without structure and then just growing and growing, where you grow with your deficiencies. And that's why you see guys, really big pecs, really big arms, but their back, their shoulders, rear delts, the traps, everything just lacks. Where if you start focusing, it's like, hey, where's my weakest chain? And for a lot of guys, it's the shoulders, right? And the back, not the chest and the arms. And they focus on that. It becomes much more aesthetic. And that's the name of the game. It's not about size. Like you can be very aesthetic, very lean and look fantastic, fabulous. You go to the beach, it's like, wow, like that guy looks incredible. There, just Monday, I was at the gym here in Spain, and there are 3 guys from the UK, and one was like really jacked, but his proportions were off. He had like really big pecs and shoulders, but his arms were like skinnier, the legs were skinny. And there was another guy, he was probably 20 pounds lighter, 30 pounds lighter than him. Well, not 30, probably 20 pounds lighter than him. Same height, but it was much more proportional. And he looked better than the guy who was bigger. So size matters only if it's aesthetic and proportional. If it's not aesthetic and proportional, it's not going to be that attractive. And ultimately, that's what people want when they work out, aside from just like the strength and other benefits there.
Yeah. I used to always say my 2 reasons for working out was to look good naked and be hard to kill. I have 3 reasons now. It's look good naked, be hard to kill, and intimidate my daughter's future boyfriend. But I'm still working on the shoulders. I'm working on the shoulders for the aesthetics because my back is big. I've been able to work on my back, and now that my abs are coming in and I'm doing a lot of the pull-ups, so I'm getting that V shape. I notice my shoulders are lacking, so I'm kind of get more of that roundness in my shoulders to really finish out that look. So you're right. It's very meticulous, and it might sound vain, but it's just attacking each area and having a system and an approach to it in order to get the maximum results from your workouts. And I love that you mentioned the 3 days a week. That's a new approach that I adopted. 3 days a week. I have a full body triple extension speed I do, and then I'll do upper body and lower body. And those workouts will crush. And I definitely feel the recovery for the next couple of days because it is the rest that really helps. So the listeners now, they have their diet rolling in, they have their movement coming together. But as I just alluded to, the recovery, and you mentioned that the muscles grow in recovery. And I'll tell myself right now, Mauro, I could do better at my sleep, I admit. But we all know that recovery piece is very important.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Thayton here, host of the Modern Man Podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. What would you tell someone who is looking to dial that in? How can we best recover? What are the best practices we can do, whether it just be sleep or just aiding our muscles post-workout in the days that follow?
Yeah, so if we stick, I mean, diet is a role, right? So the quality of food you eat will have an impact on your recovery, especially micronutrients. So getting in a lot of micronutrients, antioxidants is going to be key, and also enough carbohydrates will help. A lot of people talk about protein. Yes, protein matters. That's like the elephant in the room. But carbs are a lot of times underrated for optimal recovery. So make sure we get some good amount of carbs in there as well. Obviously, if someone is cutting in a fat loss phase, that would be harder. But you can still make smart choices there. Like let's say blueberries, a lot of antioxidants, very very supportive. But yeah, sleep is the big one there. And there's a million things we can do to optimize our sleep. From my experience, and I've done a lot of Aura audits where I look at Aura ring scores and log in and look at the charts, patterns, but also looking at the research. Actually, there's a new research that's very, very interesting that found the risk for mortality went up more, not for people that had low amounts of sleep, that too, but it went up even more for those who didn't have a regular sleep schedule. So if you don't get enough sleep, but you're regular, your mortality risk is lower than if you're irregular and get a lot of sleep. And irregular means you go to bed at 8, today at 9, then 10, then 11, 12. Like it's all over the place because you're creating something called social jet lag. You're putting your body in jet lag all the time and you're disrupting your circadian rhythm. So getting up and going to bed at the same time is going to be absolutely key. That's very, very important. The closer you can keep it within a 30 to 60 minute window, the better. Now, that's easier said than done, especially for you, kids 6 months old. So it's going to be hard. But the closer you can get to that, the better. Not eating 3 to 4 hours before bed. Why? Because when you eat, your body temperature is up. And if your body temperature is up, your heart rate is up, and you need a low core body temperature to get enough quality sleep and deep sleep. And if you don't get enough deep sleep, then it's not going to be so good, and you're not going to feel recovered. Getting some morning sunlight exposure will help as well with your circadian rhythm. So morning light, and in the evening, you want to make sure you stay away from blue light last 1-2 hours of the day. If that really doesn't work, you can get some nice blue light blockers. There's True Dark, there's Bone Charge. Those are 2 brands I always recommend. But there are many others as well that you can use, and those are the keys there. Room temperature, make sure it's like around 60, 67 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty cool in there. And then maybe some other hacks, blackout curtains, or if you don't, having a sleep mask. If there's just some light, it can disrupt your sleep. Mouth strips, so hostage tape or mouth strips forces your body to breathe through the nose, gives you more oxygen, increases nitric oxide production, which is good for the heart, good for also blood flow. Men know why that's important. And and that's pretty much it for the very low hanging fruits. In there again, there's many other things that someone could do. The foods that they're eating, but those are like super easy to implement things.
Yeah, no, I love it when you get that good rest and you wake up strong, and the fellas know what I'm talking about with the good blood flow. But speaking of which, we can go there because I do want to talk about testosterone levels and how that plays into our peak performance. Perhaps ways we could boost our testosterone, or how testosterone can help with our health and performance. I'd love to tap into your expertise on that, Mauro, while we still have a few more minutes left in the call. Talking to a lot of the men, especially in the United States, we know the testosterone levels have been slipping and they've been going down. It's getting to the point where it's almost an epidemic. But what would you say to the guys listening who want to boost their health, boost their testosterone, whether it be through natural ways like sleep, diet, things like that? And what are the benefits they can get with more optimized testosterone levels?
Yeah, so when we think about more optimal levels of testosterone, a lot of men think like, oh, it's all about muscle and sex. Yes, you will get that. You'll get a better ROI at the gym, more muscle, better recovery for sure. But you also have cognitive benefits. So your competitive edge is higher, your ability to focus, optimize bone density, lower cardiovascular risk, improved levels of blood glucose levels, low risk of MS. That's why women have more MS than men, because they have lower levels of testosterone there. But really the biggest benefit, and Andrew Huberman talked about that on his podcast, is testosterone makes effort feel easy. So we know that sometimes it's the hard things that we don't want to do that are preventing us from getting things done and getting to the next level. And so if, let's say, someone has like a huge resistance to go to the gym or to do something, and then their testosterone is optimized, well, now that resistance is gone. So because effort feels easier, you're more motivated, because also dopamine is upregulated. You're more likely to do it, to act on it, to keep your promises. And that will go a long way, because if everything that's right now hard, I'm not saying it's going to be all easy, but it feels easier. So let's say you have things that are level 8 out of a 10, and with optimal levels of testosterone, they're 6, 5 out of a 10. Well, now all of a sudden you bust through barriers that you had before. And I think that is really the biggest benefit there of high levels of testosterone. Now, as far as tips go, right, the first thing I would recommend is getting blood test, and look at all, not just testosterone, like a really comprehensive panel. If someone wants to know what panel or test we use, I can give you the link to the panel we use for clients. I don't make any money out of it. I can just give you the link, and then you see it's 97 biomarkers that we look at. And it's very advanced. So not just a regular checkup at the doc, and it's a preventative approach. And we look at that, and then you have different measurements. So you have your total testosterone, and a lot of guys just stop there. They go there and say, oh, my total testosterone, that's it. The problem with that is total testosterone is like revenue, but your free levels of testosterone are your profit. So free testosterone is really what matters. And free means it's freely circulating in your bloodstream. It's bioavailable. It's ready to use. So all the benefits we want from high levels of testosterone come from free testosterone. And all the downsides of low testosterone also comes from free testosterone. So we want to make sure that we see where are my free levels of testosterone? How can I optimize those to make sure that those are better and those are higher there? Yes, total testosterone plays a role, but free testosterone is really, really important. And then you have the other marker, SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, and that bounds a lot of the free testosterone. The key is to unbound it, so give it free, that is freely circulating. So free testosterone, kind of like your cash flow, how much is ready to use, and sex hormone binding globulin is kind of like how much you have in your deposit, but you cannot touch it, right? It's like it's a saving account that has a password, and you have to unlock it to get more of the free testosterone out there. And that's like really what we need to understand, because if I see blood work and I see someone has like really high total testosterone but low free testosterone, the strategy may be different than for the guy that has low testosterone across the board, right? And I would need to see lipid panels, all the other panels, to see what does the diet look like, what has this guy been eating, do we need to change macros, are the micronutrients missing, and so on. So switching gears and going into the actionable stuff and why the decline happens. I spoke to a few, doctors, telemedicine clinics, spoke to Dr. Gordon. He used to be, I think, the doc of Joe Rogan. He was on Joe Rogan like 5-6 times, and I interviewed him for my private clients, and he gave his advice, others, and I drew also my own conclusions, and they kind of match what a lot of others have found. The number one factor is going to be sleep, not the sexy thing, not a supplement. It's going to be sleep, because most of your testosterone is produced during REM sleep. That's later in the night, usually midnight, 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. So optimizing that is going to be key, which we can optimize with zinc, vitamin B6, and just the sleep tips I gave you guys. Next one is stress. Again, not the sexy one, but managing cortisol, because cortisol will just lower your testosterone levels. There as well, if you're overstressed, then your body's priority is to manage or regulate that because it's a fight or flight mode and not in a reproductive mode. So why would it increase testosterone for your ability to reproduce if you're fighting a threat, right? It doesn't make sense. Next one is food quality, so micronutrients. And that's where we want to get all the quality nutrients in there that has the cofactor. So zinc, right, is a cofactor for testosterone production, magnesium, vitamin D, boron as well. These are like the top four that can help. And then there's some others that potentially can help. Cholesterol plays a role, goes down that pathway there. Make sure you get enough fats in your diet. Like there are all sorts of things there that are diet related. Weight loss is a big one because if you're overweight, then you have higher levels of estrogen. Not always, but many times. And if your estrogen levels, that's why blood work is important. But if your estrogen levels are so high, you have an enzyme called aromatase, and that converts testosterone to estrogen. So a lot of your money that you're making is kind of going to the tax office. You don't want that. You want to optimize taxes legally. And the same is here. You want to optimize your testosterone naturally there. Next one, after those big four will be resistance training. That one there will play a role, but from my experience, not a lot. I've seen guys who don't lift come in the program. They've got like really good levels of testosterone because of diet, sleep. And I've seen guys who lift or really jacked and their levels were not as great as others because they were under recovered and overstressed. So recovery is just so big and will make a huge difference there. But yeah, those are like the top 5. And then there's some supplements that can help, may make a difference. I've seen small changes there, but not as big changes as those core 5 habits. So again, 80-20 approach.
Yeah, no, 100%. And kind of like you mentioned too, the holistic approach to all of it. And that's why earlier in the podcast, your tips on the movement, the workouts, the sleep, the optimization, the diet, that all plays into these testosterone levels, like you just mentioned, those 5 key pieces. And I know you offer a free PDF for boosting testosterone naturally to help start getting the benefits from your program, as well as links for people who are listening to follow and connect with you to get more of the amazing information that you've gathered over the years. So, Mauro, I want to make sure that our listeners and our audience has a way to connect with you, access that free PDF. What are the best links, socials to follow? How can people get that PDF and connect with you?
Yeah, so if you want the free one-page PDF that has like the main nutrients and what food sources and everything to get to boost T levels naturally, then you can go to sixpackceo/gift. 6 written out, so number 6, packceo.com/gift. But really, I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my top 2 channels where I'm most active, and you can follow me there and check out my most recent content.
Absolutely. I'll have those links in the show notes below for anyone listening or watching on YouTube. They could just open up the description, scroll down, hit those links, and get right to that PDF to get the amazing value, as well as the notes that you've been sharing already on this podcast. Now, last question. It's usually the heaviest, which is why I save it for last, is what is something that you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
That's a really good question. If we stick to this conversation, I would definitely say the 2 health issues I had changed my trajectory for the better. It was not easy, and those there were very powerful. There are other circumstances that or other life events that I had as well. But if we keep it to this conversation, I would say those 2, especially like the cardiologist appointment there, that was definitely very eye-opening and life-changing for me.
Yeah, I always say, when we're in our 20s, we think we have all this energy and we're immortal. And I thought burnout was a myth until it hit me firsthand as well. And when we first realize that we are not immortal, it's a wake up call, and it's definitely something that can rattle a lot of guys, especially the high performers who think they can just white knuckle it through, and you just simply can't. You have to manage it, and you have to pay attention to your body. So great tips there. And thank you so much for the work and the research that you've done to help guide other men and guide your clients to that successful and healthy life, not just rich, but ripped, not just wealthy, but healthy. So I appreciate the time and your expertise. Founder of Six Pack CEO, peak performance expert, and trusted advisor to successful CEOs and business owners, Mauro Stara. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me as well. And I'm even going to share some of the tips that you left along the way really quick for listeners who are typically working out while listening to this, or they're in the car driving, maybe cleaning around the house or the apartment. First, sacrificing health for wealth. Men, we do this all the time. We prioritize what we value, but we think that providing and protecting means generating money. But without the health, we can't acquire the long-term wealth. First, fix your diet. The main thing that you're going to have to address will be what you're putting in your mouth. And it's also the low hanging fruit. You have to eat anyway. So why not optimize what those meals will be? And the approach, as Mauro shared, was your appetite management. Carb-back cycling, managing your appetite, and also looking at your movement. Cardio will make you hungrier. Weightlifting also will help you build that muscle in your rest. You'll continue to burn calories after the activity, and it might not be as much as you first thought. You don't need to be in the gym 6 days a week. You can do 3 days a week, low volume, moderate frequency. And it's not just about size, about aesthetics. Working on the shoulders, fellas, you know what I'm talking about. And then what about your sleep, your recovery? That irregular sleep is riskier than the low sleep. Matter of fact, why not get rid of both irregular sleep and low sleep? Get higher sleep, higher quality sleep, and more consistent sleep to optimize your circadian rhythms. And that is going to help boost your testosterone, which will make effort easier. Men, the goal is elevating our potential, elevating our capacity for life. With more optimized testosterone levels, it increases our ability and lowers the barrier of entry for doing hard things. It makes effort fun, and we all want to do hard things, even wake up in the morning hard, because of our optimized testosterone. I got a little smile from Mauro out of that. You're probably smiling at home or wherever you are. Sleep is the number one factor for your testosterone. Manage your stress, zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, boron. Focus on these micronutrients, and be sure to tap into experts like Mauro and get that free PDF for the resources and the nutrients that can help you optimize not just your testosterone, but your health and your wealth. Guys, thank you so much for rocking with us all the way to the end. We appreciate you making it, and make sure you share this with somebody else who can get value from this. And if you took a lot of notes along the way, share those notes with them as well. If you want to share and have a discussion on this podcast, join the Noble Knights. You can jump in the conversation there and discuss these episodes even more. And the best tip that you can give us, the best compliment you can give us, is by leaving us a rating to let us know how we're doing. And of course, we'll catch you guys next week, because like we always say, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.